Since 1984, getting out on the water with friends and family has been easy with Doozie boat lifts. Our lift supports jet skis, pontoons, tritoons, and boats under 14,000 pounds. We have galvanized and aluminum, boathouse, and 4-post lift options. Today we'll be going through how to install a Doozie side mount lift. Before you even order your lift, you want to measure the distance in your rafters to see what size overhead beam you need. We custom make all our overhead beams, however, we do have 12 and 13 feet overhead beams come standard. This measurement will allow you to get the properly sized overhead beam. You want to measure it where you put your cradles on both sides just to make sure that your dock is in fact square. The overhead beams need to go directly where the cradles will be carrying the weight of the boat. We recommend calling the boat manufacturer to get the center point weight balance of the boat. From the center point, the cradles need to be 4 feet forward and 4 feet behind, for a total of 8 feet apart. If you cannot find the center of balance point, locate the engine and put the cradles on either side. If the engine's on the back of the boat, such as outboards and surf boats, put the cradles 2 to 3 feet from the stern of the boat and the second cradle 8 feet from there. You'll also want to measure the width of your slip to make sure you order the properly sized cradles. For this job, we are using the standard 13-foot overhead beam and we are trimming the edges so it will fit perfectly in the rafters. Before we put the overhead beam in the rafters, we will prep our beam brackets. From your bolt bag, you will need 8 half-inch washers. Lay 2 with each of the beam brackets. You will need 8 3/8 by 1 inch bolts. Lay 2 with each bracket. You will also need 8 3/8 nuts. Also lay 2 with each bracket. Now that your beam brackets are prepped, it is time to put the overhead beam up in the rafters. You don't want to put your pipe hangers or pulley hangers on it, as it makes it that much heavier to pick up over your head. You're going to slide in one end and then put the other in, aligning it exactly where you measured. Once it's in place, we will attach the beam brackets to keep the overhead beam from shifting.
So you take your stuff, put this through, and you go big washer, little washer. Then put this nut on all about midway, give enough slack so you can lift up and slide it one side on the board up there, then you put the other side here, lock it down.
You will want to measure from the edge of the wood to where the 4 plate is on the overhead beam. And you want to remember this measurement because you're going to make sure it is the same on the other side when you put the second overhead beam on. You will want to use wood screws to screw into the bottom of this beam bracket to secure it to the wood. Repeat on the other side and tighten down the bolts. Now we can add the pulley. Put the pulley up and then you will use the 1.5 by 1/2 inch bolt and a 1/2 inch nut to secure it. If it's an 8,000 to 10,000 pound lift, you'll use a 5/8 to a 1.5 inch bolt. The pipe hanger goes on the opposite side. You do not want to tighten this one down, as we will tighten it down after we put the pipe through. Now that you've done that, we can measure 8 feet from that beam to the next one, and we will repeat the same process over. Put in the overhead beam, and once you have it in place, measure to make sure it is the same distance from the rafter to the 4 holes. Then you will put in your beam brackets to stabilize it. Once you have secured those, we will install the pipe hanger with the motor bracket. You do not want to tighten the bolts down on this one until we put the pipe through. On the other side of the beam, install the pulley. At this point, this is what the lift should look like. Now we will slide the pipe through. Next, we will put the pipe through the gear plate. You want to align, there's a hole in the pipe, you want to align with the hole in the gear. This will allow you to put the pin through it. Once you slide the pin through, you can go ahead and tighten it down. Now that the gear plate is secured, you can tighten the pipe hangers down to the overhead beams. Now that the pipe hangers are secured, you can secure the gear plate to the motor mount with a 1/2 inch nut by a 1.5 inch bolt. The order in which you secure the nuts is important for the alignment of the gear plate. Now we will put the pulley on the shaft. Make sure the screws for tightening it down is on the inside and it is flush with the outside of the shaft. Now we will put the motor on the gear plate. This is really a two-person job because the motor is heavy and you don't want it falling into the water. Next, we will use the screws that came in the box to secure it to the gear plate. You do not want to tighten these screws down. We will do that after we put the belt on. Now we will put the belt on. You put the belt on like if you're putting a bicycle chain on. If you need a better angle, check out our how to change a belt video. Check the tension on the belt by squeezing between the two pulleys. If it needs more tension, you can bring the motor down a little bit. If it's too tight, you can bring the motor up. Once you have the belt tension exactly where you need it, you can tighten down the nuts on the back of the motor. Now we will run the power cord down and mount the switch on the pole in which it is a comfortable place in order to run the lift up and down. Next, we'll prep the pipe in order to put the cables on. You will want to drill a hole in the center of the pipe hanger all the way through. You want the hole to be slightly bigger than the size of the cable. You will do this for both pipe hangers. Next, we will string the cable through the pipe. You want to put about half of the cable through the hole. Once you do that, you will go to the other side and you will put it through the pulley and bring it down. Repeat with the other cable. Now we will start prepping our cradles. To do this, we're going to put our adjustable brackets on first. We will loosely secure one plate, and then on the other side of the adjustable bracket, we'll put one bolt and nut and leave the other side blank. This will make it easy to quickly put on the cradle. Whereas the holes are pre-drilled for these brackets, sometimes in the galvanization process leaves a little extra film, making it hard for the bolts to come in. Now that you have your adjustable brackets prepped, you're going to measure your cradle and mark the center line of them. Once you have the center line, we recommend measuring 16 inches from the center line to where you put your adjustable bracket. Overall, they should be 32 inches apart. However, depending on your boat, they might need to be closer or farther apart. To put the adjustable bracket on, you're going to slip the one side you had both bolts in, use that side you did not secure and just move it over, put the bolt and nut through. Now you want to use a square to make sure it is square. There are left and right pieces to the adjustable brackets. Make sure that the flat side is on the inside, as that is where you'll be attaching the wood. Once you have them all in place, you can secure them down. Next, we will be putting the thimbles on the cradles. They are made of stainless steel, which makes them quite tough to put on. You will need to forcefully use the hammer to get them locked in properly. Do this for all 4 of them. Now place the cradles underneath the overhead beams where you have your cables laid out. Do this for both cradles. Put 2 clamps by each end of the cradles. Now you'll pick up one of the 2 clamps and you'll put the cable through the clamp and then through the cradle. Do this on all 4 sides and make sure you have the same amount of cable on each side. Then you will feed the dead end of the cable through the clamp making sure that the saddle of the clamp is on the live wire. A good way to remember this is to never saddle a dead horse. Repeat step on the other cradle and then plug the motor into a power source. We will now start wrapping the cable. You're going to have one person run the switch and you'll have two people holding the wire to the pipe to make sure it winds nicely. You should have one cable winding down while the other cable is across. Once you wind about 2 or 3 coils, you want to pull the clamps back down as they will have risen. Continue to wind and push down on the clamps until you get closer to the end of the cable or closer to the end of the pipe hangers. You'll also want to prep the wooden bunks. We are going to show you now how to put the carpet on them. What you will want to do is roll out the entire length of the carpet to make sure it is straight, and then at one end you will fold it on the sides and then make a little triangle and then put a nail in the middle of the triangle. Then you want to go to the other end, stretch the carpet taut, and then repeat the process of putting a nail in the triangle. You will then from there take about a half a hammer length and then put a nail or a staple into the wood, and then keep doing about a hammer length down the side, trying to keep the carpet even from one side to the other. Once you do the entire length of the board, you will do the other side, making sure you keep the carpet tight. Now we will bring our wooden bunks over to the adjustable brackets and use the carriage bolts to attach the wooden bunks to the brackets. You will need to drill holes before you put the bolts on. You will do this for all the adjustable brackets. Once you got the first wood laid, you want to measure the distance from that to the end, so when you put your second board on, they'll be equal distance apart from each other. Once you've gotten all the boards secured and in place, you'll want to take a level to make sure the cradles are level. If not, what you will do, you will move these cables until it is, and then you will tighten down the clamps. Now that you have tightened one set of clamps down on the front cradle, you are going to raise your lift just slightly, anywhere between 1 inch to 4 inches, to give the lift a little tilt. Then you will tighten down the clamps on the back cradles. Once you got the first set of clamps down, you can put the second thing of clamps on, and then take electrical black tape and wrap the ends of the cables so no one will catch their finger on them. Next, you'll want to grease all of the grease fittings. There are 2 on each pipe hanger, and there you will have 3 on the gear plate, 2 at the bottom of the boxes, and then 1 at the top of the gear plate. Don't be afraid to put a lot of grease, especially in the one on the gear plate. Now we will pop the grease gutters on top of the pipe hanger. There should be 4 total. Now we will put the cover on. First, you're going to find the plate and put the plate on and use the wing nuts to secure it to that bottom. And you want to do this loosely. Now we will put the pulley cover on. Locate the screws shown out of the cover nut bag, and then you will put the bottom bolt through and then use the nut to secure the pulley cover on. To get the other nut on is a little bit more difficult due to the gear, and so we will need another bolt to tap it into place. Then secure with a nut. Now locate the lollipops out of the bag, and we're going to place them at the top of the gear plate and secure them with the nut. We are going to cut off the access of the bolt so it will be flush with the nut. Finally, we will take the cover and slide it over the 2 of the lollipop nuts up top. Once we have that secure, we are going to push the plate up and then push it down in place and tighten the wing nuts. Congratulations, you have now installed your Doozie side mount lift.